or even the mesh materials you use for the earpads. I mean, the earpad materials. I mean, it all makes a difference, and and your ears can pick up that subtlety easy. Today we're going to talk about tuning. The old saying, you could tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
It's like that, yeah. But for headphones.
REO Speedwagon, I believe. That was an album from them, right? In case that people don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, headphone tuning.
Yes.
Yeah. All our secrets will be revealed in this video. But only at the end, so you got to watch.
You got to watch the whole thing because you won't know when the end is.
Yeah. That's the punchline comes at the end.
Can't just skip right to the end.
Yeah. Well,
it all comes down to one thing, one sentence.
Well, yeah.
One little trick.
It's just like the universe comes down to one number,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But 23.
No, it's lower than that.
58.
No, it's a single digit. We can't tell anybody what it is. It's 0 through 9.
Well, that's not many options.
Anyway, tuning. So tuning, as in, I guess, how do we approach final tuning? It's kind of like Elon with the rockets. Like, they're building rockets, right? And they got prototype engines, and they fire them off, and they measure the torque they put out. Things like that, right? And then finally, they put it on a thing that sits up like 20 stories high and shoot it in the air and see how it lands, right? It's all about experimentation.
Well, that actually is, oddly enough, a fair point, because what you do see commonly enough is people optimizing something. And this sounds like a good thing. Of course, you want to optimize something. You always want it to be better. There's usually room for improvement in pretty much everything. However, there are a lot of times where you optimize something that maybe shouldn't be optimized. Maybe it shouldn't exist. Maybe it should change. Maybe your approach is completely wrong, so you're optimizing something that's kind of pointless. And this is the nuance of tuning a headphone, because you could tune things to solve problems, and that's sort of what tuning tends to be. You have a design and approach that's an approximation of what you think is your best guess, you hope. You start with that, and you notice problems, maybe from subjective listening or from measurements. You notice there's challenges somewhere in the frequency response or the spectral decay or whatever, various parameters, and you try to fix them. But inevitably, it's possible that what you're fixing isn't actually a problem, or it could be a bigger problem than you think. And you think maybe it went away. You think it is less significant than it was before now, but you may be chasing a ghost in that regard. So that's part of the issue.
Yeah, well, last year we upgraded our measurement rig, got the 5128 head, which is becoming the norm for headphone measurements. I know Jude at HeadFi is using that system for a few years now, and he's pretty much an expert with it. And when it comes to measuring, and we've been using it for a while now. Started with the Diana TC, and the beauty of the latest measurement rigs. I mean, it's not cheap, and we had to get a soundproof booth to drop the ambient so we could see more. We wanted to see as much as possible, right? But the beauty of having the latest and greatest is that you can see more information and then determine if that's important in the subjective or not. So,
well, you hope people do that.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Well, that's true. That's true. Some people don't have a subjective. They just measure it and call it a day, and it's not how you make something sonically world class. It's not going to happen. You could get approximate, but you always have. I mean, people are subjective. Audio is analog. That's the way it works. And so, you've got to, and then you've got what's currently available in the market and what people are accustomed to hearing. I mean, if we all had huge planar speakers in our homes, which we don't. In fact, probably very few people do. You'd instantly get a planar headphone because they're like, oh, it's the same sound as my speakers. But if you're listening to a transistor radio all day, then you might not get it.
Okay.
But that's the nuance of tuning, is you're looking at the market, who your customer is, and you're using your, hopefully, years of experience to combine the subjective and objective and come up with a final product.
Well, it's that last little bit of polish, I guess,
Yeah.
Like, you're not like changing the whole sound or anything with tuning. You're just getting that last little refinement.
I mean,
usually.
you could dumb it
you
down
could.
a lot.
Yeah, you could.
You
I mean,
know?
yeah, you could just put like a whole blanket over a speaker. And,
Pretty much.
That would be hell of a tuning. But
Or stick a piece of foam in a headphone. I mean, that's been done before where you're just dropping out the highs. For the most part, you're dropping out a lot of stuff, but or even the mesh materials you use for the ear pads. I mean, the ear pad materials. I mean, it all makes a difference, and and your ears can pick up that subtlety easy.
yeah, I guess ear pads are probably that's big for fine tuning. Yeah,
It has the
You can
most
use
surface area right
Yeah.
there. In terms of how it can affect what's coming out of the face of the driver. So sure. Well, guys, there's aftermarket pads that are available for some of the headphones out there, and people are always saying how this does this sounds like that. They swap ear pads, and it's usually pretty dramatic for the people that own the headphone.
Yeah, it doesn't change the overall character of the headphone. It just tunes it more in a way that you might prefer,
Yeah.
or not really.
It adjusts the tuning.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is preferable, sometimes is not. And if the question is initially, how does the tuning impact the final result? That's a fickle one because it really depends on how much tuning is done. And different companies seem to have different approaches with this one. Some people spend all day tuning. They start out with a driver that they know is achievable, that either they can manufacture or they think is technically the best driver for their application because maybe they're purchasing it. And now they have this baseline. They know what they're using. So all that matters to the end result of the headphones in that case, to some extent, is the tuning. And they have no control over anything but that. But if you're making the driver, if you're making the enclosure, the chassis, you know everything about it, it's a totally different story because you can make adjustments to pretty much every aspect. And then the tuning is less substantial to some extent because oftentimes you wouldn't necessarily be adding materials or adjusting something to get the final product. You would be almost manufacturing a different part
Yeah,
to get it there.
in a perfect world, you'd have a perfect speaker.
Yeah.
And therefore, it doesn't require any kind of external tuning because it's perfect. So,
Sure.
of course, that doesn't exist. So what you deal with is as close as possible, get as close as possible to what you consider to be optimum for that design, and then tune around it.
Well, I saw someone say it's like, well, the Diana TC can't be that much better than like a V2 because it looks the same on the outside. So how different can it be, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's completely different tuning.
That's the
when
magic.
we made it. So yeah, they are quite different.
Yeah, the driver's designed differently, and the interior space is filled out differently, and and there was definitely we did some fine tuning, and the people we've seen a number of comments starting. I remember what Joshua did. Joshua Valor did the first review, and he caught on right away. He caught on to the fact that, wow, this thing is just like, in terms of tonality, was just spot on in everything he played, and and that's what we were after. We played a lot of material through it, narrowed it down to what we knew could be a problem out there in the real world, and then tuned it out, so to speak.
Well, it also helps of listening to older versions of Diana for years now, knowing exactly what they sounded like, what you wanted to improve on it. So
Yeah.
you know what you wanted. It's just getting there, and that's what.
Yeah, we had a direction.
Yeah.
We wanted to beat ourselves.
Yeah.
It's simple, Well, it's not simple, but what I'm saying is it's a path that we have been on for years now.
Particularly with Diana TC, it started out seeming like it would be kind of simple, but then it just got daunting, with all the revisions that we kept going through and everything.
Yeah, but in
It's
the
like,
end, it's
oh my-
cool.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is people are recognizing it. They go, wow, the fit's really nice now. And it's these subtle things. It's not even just about the sound. It was about everything. It was about a little bit of change here on the headband, a little bit, you change the angle. But that's our point, though, right? That we've been, technically speaking, we've been tuning since inception, right?
Right.
We've been fine-tuning and improving the fine-tuning since we started, before we even started selling our first headphone. So...
That tends to be pretty common. But I think people look at things a bit questionably at times. Tuning is a bit more fickle than it might seem outwardly because you're really adjusting, ideally, every component in the package, the entire package. And it really is the combination of all the different assets in the product that make it what it is, right? So it isn't necessarily like you're just putting something here or you're taking something out here. You're putting foam in front of something, and that's tuning. To some people, when they have no control, maybe that's the case. But in an absolute sense, the control you could have over tuning is enormous, because typically if you're actually designing everything, which some companies certainly do, you have absolute control over pretty much every asset, every factor. So you could make the headphone sound function any way you want, really. And it could have an absolutely enormous impact on the sound. It can make it sound from the cheapest set of earbuds you've ever heard to the most high-end headphone. Like that really is the difference that tuning could have. It's pretty severe, and it's just a question of what the goals are, what your skill sets are, what you're trying to seek, what you think the market needs.
I don't know. It always comes back to Elon for some reason. I don't know, but yeah, he said something similar that it's like really smart engineers could be focused on only one specific thing. So you're just tuning for, I want just the bass, and then that's all you're worried about. You don't worry about anything else. You just go down this rabbit hole, and you're not focused on anything else, and then you could create a skewed product, right?
I've met a number of audiophiles over the years that are like that too.
Yeah.
They might be focused strictly on female vocals,
Right.
and they'll tune an entire system. I'm talking a lot of money.
Yeah.
They'll get a single speaker driver, they make those real simple paper cone drivers. I can't think of the name
with
of it.
whizzer cones.
Yeah, well, just one driver, right, in a big, huge cabinet. So it forces
full range
to
driver.
do, it tries to do bass with a 6-inch speaker, and they'll put beautiful tube amps on it, the best of cabling, a entire room treated, and the only thing the thing does well is maybe female vocals. It can't do bass, can't do highs.
Yeah, right. You're tuning it for
wow, does
one
it sound good in that one region?
Yeah.
That's a significant thing, though. People do that oddly often, quite too often, if you ask me, because especially in headphones, at this point, there's so much diversity, and maybe you don't see it all at a show. Usually not every company is there, but there's a lot of products that are offering that. They're offering laser focus in a particular region, and curiously, the manufacturer and the designer typically aren't even aware that's the case, which is where the problems come in. Because then they don't really tell you, hey, it's made specifically for this one thing. Usually not. And as a result, you get people with questionable reviews. You get people that say, well, this is the best headphone I've ever heard, and they don't necessarily specify that's only because it's good in this one region or it excels in this one thing that they really care about. So you get potential issues there.
Probably because they don't realize themselves how narrow-minded or focused they are in their listening habits. That's what it boils down to. It's about what you're accustomed to listening for.
Yeah, because we've heard headphones, people bring them to the show, and they're like, it's like, I tuned this headphone and everything. They started out with a headphone that was done, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, I wanted to tune it towards what I wanted it to sound like, and you listen to it, it's like, I don't know what this guy's listening to.
It's broken, completely broken. It's like, well, it's not playing full-range music.
That's very common.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because to you're one person with presumably limited musical tastes, and it's very difficult to see whether or not this is going to be a product that is sufficiently diverse to excel in a wide range. And maybe that doesn't matter. There's not intrinsically an issue with that, but it's a common issue you see in the industry where manufacturers make products suited towards their taste, and their taste can be very limited. It's not necessarily a problem, but it does create a lot of ambiguity in the industry because one person will rate something super high, another person will say this is garbage.
Yeah, because they're not listening to anything that person likes.
Yeah, and then people use it as evidence to say that all audiophiles are fools. And, well, I guess it's sort of human nature, but a lot of humans can be foolish at times. They could misunderstand how something fits in the market or where a product excels. They could kind of not necessarily understand fully that this product only excels in one region. And as a result, it gets marketed as the greatest headphone ever.
Right.
But a lot of people say, I don't like anything about it. And
Kind of goes for everything.
Right.
It does go for everything.
Think about it. I mean, a blender could be like that.
Sure.
I just happen to say that because we were using a blender for something yesterday, but it's just like you think about it, right? One blender might be completely amazing at at chopping vegetables and stuff, and it makes smoothies the way you want it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you throw ice at it, it just completely bogs.
Well,
Even
it can't
chop,
make smoothies. if
Doesn't
you
have
can't
the
chop
torque,
ice.
I
right?
guess. It depends how you make your smoothies.
Bad example.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Okay, but I don't really like smoothies with a lot of ice.
Oh.
But yeah, bottom line is that, that's the point, is that, and then another one is great with ice, but, when you go to make a smoothie with it, it heats the stuff up too much, and now you got a warm smoothie because it's just too much torque and speed.
Sure.
I mean, obviously there's nuances and adjustments. It's the same with coffee makers. You can look at anything.
Yeah.
You think about, that's even worse when you look at coffee makers. Oh my God, the subjectivity of coffee
Well, it's
with
the same thing,
grinders
yeah.
and stuff.
I mean, it comes down to taste
and
then.
the
so-
beans. Yeah.
So some people are like, this is the worst coffee I've ever had. And other
Yeah.
people, it's their favorite. Because
The variables are just
Yeah.
just across the board, you name it, right? Because
But-
we've tried all kinds of beans.
it's mainly because you can't make anything perfect, right? So, I mean, you could only you get hit so much, you
Well,
know.
this industry is highly subjective. So perfection to one is not to another. And even if you had a headphone that measured what the average of the community would say is perfect, it's still not perfect by a lot of means. And
It's just an average.
nobody really seems to entirely agree on a perfect measurement. So that's the trouble, right? Even if you want to go on measurements, there is really no necessarily definitive standard.
Well, it'd be kind of like going out and buying an average car.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Cars are the perfect thing. Yeah,
Sure.
It's like, is the
You know?
most sold car the best car?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
no.
the cheapest
Every-
car, the
that means
best
everyone
car.
should have a
Right.
Toyota, right?
Well, they-
What
whatever the
about
hell it
fuel
is.
economy?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a huge range of aspects you could benchmark a car by. It isn't to say some Ferrari is the best car, because where do you get it serviced? If you
Certainly
drive
not
it across
for-
the country and you're in
Yeah.
Iowa,
Yeah, all right.
how many Ferrari dealerships are there? How long would it take to get
Yeah,
parts?
for most people, a Ferrari would not be the best car.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, the practicality is low.
Yeah, it'd be a fun car to have to try out,
Right.
or to have for a little bit, but yeah.
I guess, yeah, it comes down to it's hard to name anything best, right? Because
Yeah.
it depends on the situation, right?
Yeah.
But audio, and specifically high-end audio, almost seems to be the worst combination of all these attributes to some regard, because there's an insane amount of diversity. And on top of that, maybe you know the type of music you like listening to, but you might not necessarily know what you care about in the music, what you prioritize. Maybe you care about the vocals. Maybe you care about the bass. Maybe you care about the mid-range. And all these various aspects combine to an insane amount of diversity. And as a result, the control you have over tuning is very substantial. And you hope that most manufacturers are trying to make a well-rounded product, but occasionally somebody's trying to make something that for them is the best headphone ever. And if they happen to have unusual tastes, you get an unusual product.
Some manufacturers just love to have diversity. Every
Yeah.
headphone sounds friggin' different,
Right.
you know? And then so, well, you pick
And you
your,
could find
pick your
one
flavor.
for you. Yeah.
Which is difficult, but,
That seems more common with IEMs, you know. All the
Yeah.
IEM, they all have like, all right, well, that's what I always ask you. So what do you normally listen to? It's like, well, you probably want
That's
this one,
true.
you know.
there's thousands of those
Yeah,
to
that's
choose
the
from.
thing.
So many.
That's confusing as hell. I don't
Yeah.
even, if I was looking for IM, I don't even know where I'd begin.
I know, right?
I'd have to ask somebody, okay, so what sounds like our headphones? Actually, we've asked that
We
before.
have asked that,
You know,
yeah.
I forget the answer, but because it's been a while, but yeah. And it probably varies month to month or every few months because new models come out. And that sounds more like an Abyss or something like that. But yeah, I know we have some guys that are into both, and some people, I mean, they know it. They'll answer you right away.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
they own both.
Right.
You know, oh, yeah, I got that. I got that one for traveling. I got the IM for traveling because it sounds like a mini Abyss or something.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think we could ramble continuously on this one. So
Yeah. What else is new?
maybe put a box on
So I
it.
promised at the end the secret.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Secret, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the secret?
The secret is you get a gnome that's been listening to audio his whole life, a real old gnome. It's got to have a
Oh.
beard on it. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm talking a white beard.
Mm-hmm.
Been around for kind of like, what's the dude in Star Wars? You know, the old little guy?
Oh, old little guy?
Yeah, the
Yoda?
The master. Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need a Yoda gnome.
Yeah.
And you let him listen to what you're doing. Right? And he can look at the measurements too, but I don't think he's going to care. He's going to want to listen. He's got to feel the force.
Oh,
Of course, yeah.
And he will tell you which path to take from there. And that's it.
I thought it was a single number.
Well, whatever the word wisdom distills down to
Oh.
in the universe.
Oh.
Now, a single number, that's a different story altogether. That's the universal number of the universe. Yeah, you're going to have to figure it out on your own. But you could ask Yoda. You might know. He probably knows. But whether he'll tell you or not, I guess it depends on whether he likes you. Anyway, yeah, gnomes.
Yes.
Yes.
On that note, thank you everybody for watching. Please subscribe because we want to hit 20,000 by the end of the year. We're going to do it. Peace,
Okay.
everyone. Thanks.